feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question. But we basically just want everyone muted because there are so many on the call that any background noise we'll be able to hear. It might make it a little harder to hear me. Also, make sure you don't put your phone on hold because that has happened, and then background music will play and no one will be able to hear either. So at any time, if you have a question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask. Everyone should see right now the PayLease screen popping up. It should say experience what's possible. I'm going to go ahead and get started with the training. So the first part of the training, I'm going to be going over the e-payment section. And then the second portion, Ashley is going to take over and she's going to go over cash pay with you. So first and foremost, right here, to access your account to log in, you can go to paylease.com. So any on-site managers, supervisors that will be needing to access PayLease, we have created accounts for you. Your temporary password at login will be PayLease123. As soon as you get logged in, make sure you update that to a personal password. To log into your account, you can go to paylease.com. You would click on login at the top right. Here you would click on the password option. Right here, you would log in with your email address and password. Of course, your temporary password at first will be PayLease123, and then you can update it, and it will end up being your personal password. If you have trouble logging in, just let us know. We can send you a password reset and get you logged in. When you log in, it will take you to your account, which will look just like this. The first thing I wanted to go over on the PayLease account is the receiving emails under Manage Accounts. Every user will have access to set up their own email notifications. Briefly going over the notifications that you have the ability to receive. The batch payment initiation email is an email sent once a day that will summarize all of the transactions that were submitted for the day. So this is really a list of residents that paid today. The batch deposit email is formatted a bit differently. This one will send you an email with all of the deposits that have hit your bank account for the day with the breakdown by deposit. So for instance, it will show, there's a deposit to this account for $1,000. These are the residents that made up that deposit and their payment amounts. So you'll always know what your deposits are for. The return report email, this one right here will send you any returns that come through. The declined credit card email, this one here, you won't need to worry about at the moment. You're not going to be accepting credit cards. Maybe in the future you will be. This just sends you a notification letting you know that an auto pay that was set up with a card and it did decline or it was expired, something along those lines. But for right now, you're just going to be taking the e-checks, the ACH payments via PayLease. Invoice email, this one you won't need to worry about either. That is any payments made to PayLease. It just sends you a receipt, but you won't be making any payments to PayLease, so that one won't really be necessary. The real-time payment receipts, if you do want to receive an email receipt each time a payment is made, feel free to check this one off when you log in. This will send you a receipt for each payment. It might, be a little cluttering if you have, 100 payments going through in a day, but you could also just choose to do the batch initiation and receive a summary as well at the end of the day. The only one up here that pertains to you would also be this real-time voided cancel payment notification. This right here will send you an immediate notification if for any reason a resident cancels their payment. So this means they submitted it, it's processing, it's not completed yet, but it still is in process, they void or cancel it, we let you know right away. This bottom section here are the Yardi Voyager alerts. These notifications are specific to Yardi Voyager. These first three are going to be emails sent to you if for any reason a payment does not post to Voyager. So these are 3 different reasons that a payment might have trouble posting to Voyager. It shouldn't be common, but once in a great while it could happen, and we do notify you. So if a resident pays and there's an issue, it doesn't post to the ledger, we will notify you immediately, so you'll make sure that you get them credited. This first one is tenant-related restrictions or configuration errors. This one means, for example, if you had a tenant's status in Yardi as not accepting payments or they're in eviction, something along those lines, and we go to post a payment, this is not going to allow the payment to post. This will send you a notification with the reason letting you know why. The Voyager configuration error, this will send you an email if there are any configuration errors. This one would be, for instance, if you didn't have your Yardi account enabled for PayLease to post payments, you didn't grant us permission, something along those lines. This would notify you of those issues of why we couldn't post. Lastly, the Voyager software communication errors. This is if there's any type of communication issue. Maybe we go to post the payment to Voyager and, Voyager's down for a second, or there's some sort of, internet miscommunication. This would notify you that there was a communication error. In all of these cases, you can reintegrate the payment, which I'll show you how to do later, or you can manually update and check it off as reviewed, but I'll go over that shortly. This daily summary, this is going to be really a summary of these first 3 notifications here. So at minimum, I would definitely recommend doing the daily summary of Voyager errors and affected transactions. This will just send you a list of here are the transactions that didn't post. For whatever reason, it'll give you a list with the explanation. So this really covers all 3 of these in one summary. Lastly, the managed deposit bank reconciliation report. This one right here is great for reconciliation with your deposits to match Voyager. This will send you your deposit report as it shows in Voyager. So you can get that emailed to you. It will give you the Yardi batch details. I'll show you also how to pull up the managed deposit reports in PayLease. But these are great notifications. We defaulted and checked them off for you. But if you decide that they're a notification you don't find useful and you wanted to uncheck it, when you log in, you can manage your notifications. So everyone will have access to manage their own notifications. Under account, we also have the secure Dropbox here. This secure Dropbox is actually a way for you to send information into PayLease. It's a secure method. It's typically used for banking information. If there was a bank account change or a new bank account needed added and you didn't feel comfortable emailing it, this is a completely secure way to send it to our client support team. Anything you upload through here goes to client support, so you could always feel comfortable if you wanted to send things this way as opposed to email, but either one will work. Under properties, this view property page here, I did want to show you when you log in, I would go to this page and make sure you're assigned to your correct properties. If you're only assigned to one property or only managing one property, you'll only see your property listed. If you are assigned to multiple, you will see them all listed here. If you log in and notice that you're not assigned to the correct property or need to be assigned to an additional property, just let Leanne or PayLease know. We can make sure that gets fixed for you. There's not too much you're going to actively be doing on this page. This is really just going to be a reference page showing your property information for the properties you're assigned to on your account. This reference ID does tie the property to Yardi, so do not edit this ID. If you edit or change this ID, the integration with Yardi will not work. Under residents, we do have our show residents page. Right here, all of your residents will show up in the system. You're only going to see the residents that you are assigned to or the residents for the properties you're assigned to. So you won't need to worry about seeing other properties residents that you're not really concerned with. Add new resident tab here. You will never need to add a new resident, so you can completely disregard this button. Because you're integrated with Voyager, all residents transfer over from Voyager automatically, so they will already be in the system. You will see them here. If you need to search, you can search the toolbar with their name. You can also alphabetize if you wanted to. If you click here, it will put them in alphabetical order depending on which tab you click on. If for any reason a resident is not in here and they needed to make a payment, you would want to make sure that you go to Voyager and you get them added into Voyager and make sure they're set to accepting payments and not in eviction status or anything like that, and then they will transfer over. If you do add them by clicking add new resident here, they will not integrate, so refrain from doing that. This column right here, rent amount, this is going to show everyone's general rent amount. This column here, what shows late amount, we need to actually fix the column name here, but this is actually amount owed or balance. So when the balances get updated, I believe you might do that the first of the month. When the balances get updated, their amount owed will show up in this column. So just know that this first column is going to be their typical rent amount, and then this second column, whatever shows up here, will be their balance owed. This is what they will see when they log in. Under Actions, History, this will show a resident's payment history via PayLease. So any e-payments that they have made using PayLease will be able to be pulled up here. And I also wanted to show you this Make Payment button. So we do give you the ability to take payments on site. So if a resident is in the office, you can take a payment internally through your account. It is optional. You may just guide them to the website and have them do it themselves. That's totally fine. But if you wanted to run the payment on their behalf and you clicked Make Payment here, you would be able to either make a one-time payment or set up a reoccurring payment for the resident. Clicking on one-time payment here, the payment amount will be here that you will put in. It's locked, so you can only make a payment for the balance showing here. So when the resident logs into their account as well, if they do not have a balance, they will not be able to pay. If they do have a balance, they are unable to edit it. Just to show you, for example, what it looks like, I'm going to save a balance right here. I'm going to delete that afterwards, but I just want to show you what it looks like to make a payment. So here, this person is going to be making a payment for $150. So their balance is $150. You would continue. You can disregard these fees. They're not reflective of your fees. Residence ACH will be $2.45 for you. My computer will always just show $9.95. To take the payment, you would check off the bank account option here. You would enter in all of their information, including their routing and account number. You would put in their name here, their bank, what type of bank account they have, a routing number. This has to be a valid routing number. So if there is an error at all with the routing number provided, it's going to say invalid routing number. You will not be able to continue. And then you can put in their bank account information here. When you click on continue, it will take you to, oh, exactly. So you have to make sure the routing number is correct. It will let you know if there's any issue with it. If it is correct, when you continue, it will take you to the review and submit page. So you can go over the payment with the resident. Make sure to read them the disclaimer down here, letting them know there will be, a $25 NSF fee assessed if their payment does return for insufficient funds by PayLease. So I would read through that, also just confirm that the payment is correct and accurate, and you can click on submit payment here and their payment will go through. If they log into their account online, they will be able to see the payment information that way. So it does link directly to their account. Going back to the residence page, make payment, you also have the option to select the automatic payment here. When you do this, the only difference is you are just going to select the day of the month that you wanted it to run, and you are going to put in an ending date or indefinitely. So if you wanted it to run the first of each month, you would put in the first for them, and then indefinitely it will run until canceled, or you can select an ending month. When you continue, it's just going to have you put in the payment details, as I showed you before. Under payments up here, this one-time payment tab, this is just another way to make a one-time payment. It'll just guide you back to the residence page. I usually say it's easier just to go straight to residence and then click make payment from the residence page. It saves you a step, but you can do it through one-time payment here as well. The same with auto pay here. If we click auto pay, you will be able to see all auto pays that have been set up. They will show up here. I am really quick going to show you a demo account of a Voyager account with activity on it, just so you can see what it's going to look like. So let me do that really quick. So this is what it will look like once auto pays are set up. When you log in, you'll be able to look here. You'll see the status of any active auto pays, canceled auto pays, expired. You'll see everything right here. You'll know who has it currently set up to pay. You have the ability to cancel any resident's auto pay at any time under action. This is, again, we give you access to do so, but the residents typically will be able, will always just do it right from their account when they log in. They also have the option to skip. If they do skip an auto pay, it is going to just resume the following month. So here's really just a page that will show you all auto pays that are set up. The next section I wanted to show you while we're on this demo account, just so you can see activity, is the transactions page. So if we do go up here and hover over transactions, we scroll down, we can click on this transactions option. Right here, all of the transactions will be listed. You'll be able to see everything here, whether it's processing, paid out, returned, refunded, all transactions show up here. If you're managing more than one property, you can narrow it down by property. If you're only managing one, you will only see your property as an option. Status. If you wanted to just pull up returned payments or NSFs, etc., you can narrow it down that way as well. You can also search by resident or transaction number. And we also, for most pages on the account, offer an Excel view. So if you wanted to open all of this data in Excel, you can do that too. If you click on this transaction number on the left-hand side, a receipt will pop up if you needed to view or print out a receipt later. Here you will be able to see all of the details of the transaction. The transactions do post to Yardi in real time. So as residents pay, a batch will open in Yardi and payments will start posting into that batch in Yardi. Between 3 and 4 p.m. Pacific Standard Time at the end of the day, the batch will close out, payments will be sent through to deposit, and a new batch will open in Yardi. This is done so the groups of deposits that hit your bank account match the batch groups in Yardi. So the batch groups in Yardi, the deposit to your bank account, and the batches in PayLease should all match in groups. Under transactions here, speaking of batches, we do have this batch deposit page. Right here is where you can see all of the deposits that have hit your bank account for the day. It's going to default to today's date. Let's broaden this date range and see if we can pull up some transactions to show you what it will look like. So right here, for example, you will see here on 2-9, there were a few deposits that hit. You'll be able to see the deposit to the bank account and a breakdown of what made up that deposit. So right here, for instance, this deposit to account ending in 5250, there was a deposit for $5,574.41. This will match the deposit amount of $5,574.41 on your bank statement, and it will also match the batch in Yardi for the same amount. And this will be a breakdown of the residents that made up that batch and their amounts. Okay, moving on, I wanted to also show you under transactions this Voyager transaction report. This Voyager transaction reports page, I would say the #1 reason to use this page would be to see any non-integrated transactions. So for the most part, all transactions should post to Yardi with no issues, but with technology, things do happen that could prevent a payment from posting or interacting with Yardi. If a payment doesn't post, of course, we do notify you via email, as I showed you on the notifications, but you can also pull this up directly on your account. So when you come in here, if you click select all non-integrated transactions, you will see any transactions that did not post. Here's a sample right here of a transaction for this management company that was unable to post to Voyager. It will give you a message of why it did not post. This was for a Voyager configuration error. Basically, it looks like there was a permissions related issue. So if something like this happens, you have two options. You can reintegrate or review the transaction. Reintegrate means that we will send it through to Yardi again. So if you check off reintegrate here and click reintegrate selected, it's going to automatically try to post it again to Yardi. Either it's going to be successful and say it works, or it's going to say unable to integrate again. Right here, this shows a permissions issue. So pretty much if in this case, you would just make sure you go into Yardi and fix the permissions, and then you can check off here and reintegrate. It should go through fine. If it was an issue and you didn't want to, and you wanted to post it right away, or you manually updated the tenant's ledger in Yardi, You could check off this reviewed button here and click review selected. It will remove it from this page as reviewed, meaning you've taken care of it. You've already fixed the ledger. There's no need for this transaction to be here anymore. So it's a good way for you to manage any transactions that don't post. Again, you might not even have any, but as I said again, with technology, you never know. There might be an issue where a payment might not be able to post. You can also use this page if you wanted to view NSFs for a specific date range, which you can also do on the transactions page like I showed you. So I would say number one, the most unique reason to go to this particular page would to be for non-integrated transactions. Under transactions, we also have this Voyager dashboard I wanted to show you right here. This dashboard, I would say this is used primarily for month-end close. This gives the ability for the Voyager integration to shut off for a short period of time. So say you were doing month-end close and you wanted payments to stop posting over to Yardi while you're doing it. If you selected your property, add selected, update property locks, it's going to lock the property. This means it's going to close out any batch in Yardi, and it's going to hold anything from posting to Yardi until 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. At 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, it's going to unlock, a new batch will open in Yardi, and all of the transactions made during that time will post to Yardi. So it's kind of a way to just break it up so the integration will shut off for a short period of time if you needed to do any, accounting work inside Yardi. Under transactions, the last thing I wanted to show you is this batch deposit page, or manage deposit, sorry. The manage deposit page right here will show you your managed deposits as shown in Voyager. So it's going to default to any open batches that are in Voyager. This in particular, there are no open batches. So let me show both open and closed. I'll put in a date range to see if we can pull up a few. So right here, it's what it's going to look like when you do see the batches. This is going to give you all of the Yardi batch information, so you can pull this up right on your PayLease account. You can see right here on 2/9, there was a batch opened. The batch Yardi ID number is right here, so you can, relate this to Yardi and find it in Yardi. You'll be able to see when the batch, what bank account it paid out to, for how much, the deposit group that it was in, and what transactions made up this batch. These will match your deposits to your bank account and the batch in Yardi, so all three should always match up equally. If you had a Yardi batch ID number and you wanted to pull it up in PayLease, you could put that Yardi batch ID number here. It will pop up. If a resident gives you a transaction number and says, I paid, here's my transaction number, and you were trying to find it, and you try to decide what batch it was in Yardi, if you put that transaction number in here and search, it will pull up the batch that transaction number is in. So this is a great little reconciliation tool if you wanted to, pull up your Yardi batches in PayLease. The last thing I really wanted to go over before Ashley takes over with cash pay is this help option at the right. Clicking on help, this will give you a list of frequently asked questions that you're welcome to review. They're pretty common ones, but more importantly, we have this write us an email tool. Right here, you will be able to send in an email to our client support team. You would just put in your message subject, what it was in regards to, and the inquiry topic. So if you had an integration question about Yardi, you could ask. If you needed to request a refund, you can do that as well. You would just type in here, please refund this transaction, 54731 for this amount. If you sent this in, one of our client service reps will respond confirming it's been done. If you have questions, they'll email you back and you can email back and forth with them. They're typically pretty quick. They get back to you within the business day. Did anyone have any questions so far on anything on e-payments that we've gone over? I'm going to be turning it over to Ashley for cash pay, but while we're still on e-payments, any questions, feel free to unmute yourself and we can discuss it further.
I have a question. My name's Ernie from Savannah. If they owe like garage, washer, dryer, anything like that, does that, are they able to show that in the balance due button?
Yes, so they will actually be able to see their total full balance. So it does include any charges that are a part of their total balance in Voyager. So the Voyager balances
Okay,
do upload, I believe, a few times throughout the day, 3 times throughout the day. So anytime you make changes in Voyager, or if they, something's added, a late fee, it's going to update and it's going to reflect in PayLease. The balances are locked, so they're unable to pay a different amount.
okay, thank you.
I do see a question. Can residents pay in advance? If they don't have a balance showing, they will not be able to pay. So the way that Eden's account is set up is to lock all balances. So if they have a zero balance, they would not be able to pay. They can only pay what is showed as their balance owed. Any other questions? Okay, actually, oh, I do see another question. What are the fees? For a resident to pay with an e-check, it is going to be $2.45. Real quick, while I have you on, before I switch over to Ashley, I'm going to show you what the resident side looks like really quick, just so you can take a look. So I'm going to do it on a sample residence account. So let me pull this up really quick so you can just get a view of what it's going to look like. Okay, so this is what the residence account will look like when they log in. Just to show you right from their homepage, they are going to see their payment amount. They will be able to know exactly what they owe. Their balance will be locked. I believe the balance haven't been updated yet, probably because it's, not the first. But right here, this resident, it looks like it was updated on the 23rd, what their balance was. So if they had a balance showing, they would be able to click make a one-time payment right from the home screen to continue making their payment. Here on the right-hand side, right from their dashboard, they will be able to see their ledger details, payment history, PayLease payments, and any active auto pays they have set up. So say they did want to click on make one-time payment here. Oh, it's not letting me because they don't have a balance. But similar to the page I showed you to make a payment, when you click make one-time payment here, it's going to take you to the payment page where they can put in their check information, the routing and account number. They can click on continue and review and submit the payment. Up here, they can also access those pages. One-time payment here. It's just, doing it from the home page is a shortcut for them, but they can do it this way as well. Reoccurring payment, if they were setting up an auto pay, they would be able to see their auto pay details here or create a new auto pay. There's a payment history tab as well. The payment history tab here, they will be able to see any past payments made via PayLease. So they also are able to see the payment status. If a payment is processing, paid out, deposited, they will be able to see the status of their payment. So they should never not know what happened to their payment or say they paid when they didn't, because they'll be able to see the details right here on what's going on with their payment. Payment methods, this page, they can save a bank account if they need to. This pretty much means that if they don't want to have to re-enter their banking information in every single time, they are able to do that. So they can save it. It just saves the last 4 digits, but if they don't want to, they can always delete it. And then lastly, profile. This is going to just be their, property information. If they needed to change a password or whatnot, they can do it on this page. And just like you have when you log in, they have a help option as well. This is going to be more geared towards resident questions though. It's going to be anything, resident related that they might need to ask. If they click contact support here, they also get the resident support email pop-up, so they can send an email to our resident support team asking any questions that they need. They can also call our resident support team. Our resident support team, we do have a 24/7 call center, so at any time if they needed help making a payment, needed to pay by phone, had a quick question, they could always call in that number. Someone will always be available. I saw a question about partial payments. No, residents will not be able to make partial payments. They can only pay with the balances showing. So they cannot pay more or less than the balance that is showing. So, right here where I showed you, this resident, for instance, has a 0 amount owed. I can't even click here to edit the amount. Since there's a 0 balance, a payment can't be made. If they had a balance reflecting there, they could only make a payment for that amount. Any other questions before I move it over to Ashley?
Hello?
Yes.
You say that we do not accept partial payment. In a case that there are some residents, or we have, in fact, a few residents, or maybe more than that, that they have a large receivable balance in their ledger. So in those cases, how this gonna work with them? Because if they have already a balance of like $4,000 and now they are supposed to pay $500, but then you're not accepting partial payment, is there an option for them so we should like customize that unit or that resident?
As of right now,
this is actually something too. I don't know, Barbara, if you wanted to let them know, but that Leanne actually went over this yesterday. This is just an additional option. So if you do need to make a payment arrangement with somebody, you can still accept checks in office or cashier's checks as a form of payment. Barbara, I don't know if you wanted to go over editing the amounts in the event that they are making a payment right away, but.
Yeah, I can do that. So basically the answer is no, they can't, they're not going to be able to make a different amount. So if they need to pay a partial payment, they would not be able to. If they needed to even pay with 2 payment types, like 2 separate bank accounts, they can't split it up. It has to be the full solid amount. But going back, let me log back into that account. I'm actually going to show you. So right here, going to the residence page, if it was a situation where you had someone maybe right in office or you wanted to run their payment for a different amount than what their balance is, technically right here, you can put in that amount manually. You can type it in or edit it and go down here. You can update it. It will save the new balance. So if they only wanted to pay $1,000 when they owed $4,000, you have technically the ability to go in and edit it. But just note, as soon as Yardi sends over the information to PayLease again, it's going to update it back to the correct balance. So if you had someone right in office that wanted to run their payment, you could edit their balance and make their payment right there for that amount. So you have access to change the balance. They do not have access if they do it online. I believe the times of the day, I think it's 4 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, noon Pacific Standard Time, and 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time that we update balances. So if you updated this at 11 o'clock a.m. at noon, it's going to reflect back to their current balance in Yardi. So it will give you some time if they needed to log in and make a payment for a different amount, you can update that. But just know whatever you type in here, it's going to update back to their current balance in Yardi at those times. Any other questions?
Could you please repeat the hours that you guys are updating the system? One is 4 a.m. and then 12 p.m. and then what was the third one?
8 p.m. So it's Pacific Standard Time. I'm not sure what time zone everyone is in. I believe you guys are all Pacific, but Pacific Standard Time at 4 a.m., about noon, and 8 p.m. I'm saying those it might not be on the dot. It's usually about that time. It could be like give or take 10 minutes, 15 minutes or so, but around that time is where the balances will update.
Thank you.
Yeah, so pretty much before you guys get into the office, halfway during the business day, and then after you guys are out of there. So. Any other questions?
So I do have a question. So is this going to be optional for residents to sign up, or in general, all residents will be signed up?
I believe this will be optional. It will be an option for them. I definitely encourage it just because it's going to make your life a lot easier if a resident goes online and makes the payment. I mean, their balance, their ledger, everything's automatically going to deposit and update in Yardi, so you're not going to have to deal with paper checks and updating ledgers, things like that. So I would really promote it just to make your life easier, but I believe that it's not going to be mandatory.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that's good. I'm gonna Ashley, are you there? I'm gonna actually switch you over to the presenter. Yep. So you can take controls.
Yes, I'm still here.
All right, so I'm gonna switch this over to Ashley. Ashley is gonna be going over cash pay with you, which is giving the residents an option to pay in cash at their local retailers instead of, you know, cashier's checks and money orders. So it's a really great program. She's gonna take it from here.
And same thing too, if you guys happen to have any questions, please feel free to either write them in the chat box or as we're going through. Just as a reminder, this is an additional payment option. You guys are not actually replacing anything. However, this is a great alternative to accepting money orders and cash in office if your properties are still accepting cash. Initially, when we created cash pay, it was because a lot of properties were accepting cash payments in office. And to eliminate that liability risk that the property managers had making bank trips and whatnot, we came up with cash pay. So instead of residents going into your office to make the payment there, whether it's with cash or a money order, the resident actually has the alternative to go to one of our cash pay retail locations, whether they're paying with cash or if they prefer to use a debit card at Walmart or Kmart, they would be able to make their payment at the retail store. So essentially, this is very similar to a wire transfer. They're not actually loading money onto this card. The card is just an identifier of who that resident is. It also allows us at most of our retail locations to be able to pull the resident's balance and then also, most importantly, their status. So in the event that the resident is set to do not accept payments, maybe due to an eviction status or a payment arrangement that you have made with them in your office, then we know to not allow the payment to process through PayLease. Check-free pay is the name of our third-party vendor that we're partnered with to be able to process these payments. All payments that are processed through check-free pay actually trains all of the retail locations, and then they also provide the platform that they're actually working off of to allow those payments to process. So there's a couple things I'm going to be going over just as far as terminology to make sure that your residents are using the proper verbiage when they're going into a retail location. But I also just wanted to go over how this operates within Yardi. So all payments made through the check-free pay system are going to process in real time in PayLease. They also are going to be posting to your open batches in Yardi, just like any payments made online. There are faster funding times with cash pay. So to your resident, as long as they're getting their payment in prior to midnight, their payment is going to account for that current day and then deposit to your property's account that next business day, just meaning faster closeout timeframes on your open batches. There are no transaction fees to you as the property managers, although there will be a convenience fee to the resident of $4 when they initiate their payment. So most residents usually that are currently coming in, you probably have the majority paying with money orders. This is going to be a great alternative for them because instead of them having to get off work early, go to their bank, cash their check, and then having to go to a retail location to purchase multiple money orders and then still have to drive back to your property to drop off that payment, we've consolidated this for them so they can make a payment at a location closest to them, whether it's at a retail location next door to work or maybe it's while they're on their way home running errands, grocery shopping, or something along those lines. We have over 25,000 locations nationwide, so that way we can target your residents, whether they're in town, maybe they've gone on vacation, instead of the resident mailing in a check, which could take 3 to 5 business days to arrive, and having to pay a late fee since their payment wouldn't be to you before your grace period ends. You can actually issue a cash pay card to your resident. They can pick any one of our 25,000 locations nationwide, make their payment, you'll see their payment post, and then they won't have to incur that late fee, and everything will still be automated with Yardi. So you will be setting residents up on physical cards. Like I said, the cards are not money that they're loading their payment onto. It's just an identifier of who they are. So when they go into a retail location, they can present their card, and it just says who they're making their payment to, and then who that resident is, so we can pull their statuses and balances. Walmart, Kmart, and Ace Cash Express are going to be our biggest name brand stores, although we have a ton of mom and pop stores that are able to accept payments as well. So some benefits to you as the property managers: you will be able to save a ton of time since you're not going to have to reconcile any of the money orders, cashier's checks, or cash is still handled on site. All real-time reporting within PayLease, and then also with it automatically integrating to Yardi, just like the online payments do. This is going to help to reduce any potential fraud or theft at your properties by keeping cash and money orders off of your properties. And then also ultimately reducing any manual entry on your end into Yardi, and then bank trips. To your residents, this is going to provide extended service hours. Like I said, residents can actually make payments as long as they're getting them in prior to midnight, and it doesn't matter what time zone they're in. As long as they're prior to that cutoff time frame, their payment will account for that current day and deposit to your property's account that next business day. There are no additional trips, so they're going to be saving themselves time, gas, and mileage, which is always great for the resident's bank account, and then they're happy with you too. There's also no additional need to buy multiple money orders. So again, just another benefit to the resident. So all of you will be receiving card orders. The cards will look just like this. On the top, this is going to be the front of the card, which just has the instructions to the agent that's accepting the payment from the resident. Each card will have their own unique 10-digit ID number, and that's actually what you're going to be assigning in PayLease to that resident's profile. The most important thing that you want your residents to know, and these are just 2 simple instructions: when a resident goes into the retail location, they are not going to be going into the regular cashier's line. If they are going into a Walmart or Kmart, they will be going into a money center. If they're happening to go into a smaller mom and pop store, it'll be a customer service desk where they're processing those like payments. And then you'll just see to the far right, this is just an Ace Cash Express where all they're processing is payments. So as far as an instructional basis, you'll want to just make sure that the resident understands when they go in to pay, instead of asking for a money order, they're going to say, hey, I need to make a bill payment. They will not reference this as a rent or lease payment when they go in. They do need to say bill pay. That's actually what they consider and or call check-free pay, is the bill pay system. Regardless of what retail location they go to, that terminology will be universal. The second part is that they are not going to identify the name of your management company or the name of your property. So you will want to make sure that the resident states that they need to make a bill payment to PayLease Community Payments. And that's actually the first bullet point on the top of the card. We are the biller that the agent is going to select from the drop-down list. So you'll just want to make sure that the resident knows that PayLease Community Payments is who they're making their payment to when they pay using this card. The agent from there is going to type in that resident's unique account number on the top of the card. They'll collect the payment and then provide the resident back with a receipt along with their card. The receipt that the resident will receive will have a transaction number that's printed on it, just like how online payments are processed. So that way you can look up a resident's payment by transaction number or by the first and last name of the resident in PayLease. On the bottom of the card, this is going to be the instructions to the resident, which gives them our web address for a list of locations closest to their property. And then it just reminds the resident to present their card along with their payment, and then to keep the receipts if they happen to have any questions for the on-site staff at your properties. I know Leanne had mentioned, I believe, by Wednesday this week that any of the documentation that you guys will be using with PayLease will be uploaded to your Grace Hill document section. So there are a couple letters that you can use when launching cash pay at your properties. This first letter is going to be just a newsletter just to introduce it. So you can say, hey, this is the newest payment type that we have available at our properties. And I believe that Leanne has actually done a combined email, so it's going over your online payment options as well as cash pay. All of the letters will be editable, so if you need to customize them with your specific pictures, logos, anything along those lines, you can make any context changes as needed per property. This is just letting the resident know how to obtain a card from you first. When they come into your office to obtain the card, you will have to activate it in PayLease. Once you've activated it in PayLease, the resident can go make a payment immediately as they are activated in real time. They'll visit a check-free kiosk of their choice, present their card along with their payment, and then just keep their receipt if they happen to have any questions for you when they're done. We will be sending the electronic receipts to you, so whether you're set up for daily initiation reports or the real-time payment receipts, you are being notified. So we're just letting residents know that they don't have to drop off their receipt as you're already receiving notification of their payments. So just as a reminder, all retail locations will accept cash. However, if your resident prefers to pay using their debit card at a retail location, Walmart and Kmart are going to be our only two stores that allow debit cards. Those two retail locations are able to process the debit cards in real time. That way they can determine if funds are available. In the event that funds are not available on that resident's debit card, the transaction is canceled. So that way you know a resident that has not paid and that a balance is still owed for that specific person. And it's at that same $4 convenience fee. The second letter that we have too that will be available is this is actually a letter that you can send out to your residents with their physical card after they've requested it, whether that's through a response via email and or to one of your direct mailers. This is just letting them know that the card has been activated, how the payment processes, where they can go if they decide that they want to pay with a debit card instead of cash. And then also, as I had mentioned before, we did not provide any of your property or resident information on the card. So that way, in the event that the card is lost or misplaced, a resident's personal information cannot be obtained. The only thing that can happen if someone finds their card is someone could pay their rent. So really easy to replace in PayLease, and I'll be showing you how to do that here in just a moment. But once you've replaced it with a new card, it automatically replaces the original card assigned, so you don't have to worry about deleting or deactivating that initial card you assigned to their account. And this also just provides our web address for a list of locations closest to them, which I do recommend when you're assigning a card to go ahead and provide at least a one-page list of those retail locations. The landing page that is not only on the back of the card with our web address for the locations, and then also on any print marketing that you're going to be sending out, looks just like this to the resident. They're going to type in their zip code, select their radius, click Find Locations, and this is going to show all of the retail locations within that zip code's proximity. So you're going to see the name of the store, the address, phone number, and hyperlink for directions, but most importantly, the store's hours of operations for each retail location. Some stores may be more predominant in your specific zip code. So if you happen to know of a specific store too that is closer to your property, I would recommend just highlighting maybe the top 2 or 3 locations closest to your property. That way you're providing everything that that resident needs to make their first payment successfully. And that's pretty much it on the marketing side. So I'm going to go ahead and jump into the PayLease card assignment process, unless any of you guys happen to have any questions on that so far. If you are needing additional cards, I will be your primary point of contact. I'm going to go ahead and include my information in the chat box. So if you are needing you can either email me or contact me. There is no additional fees if you are needing additional cards. So you'll just let me know what quantity and then what your mailing address is, and then we'll go ahead and get your order out. The standard delivery time is 7 to 10 business days. So please be sure to make sure that you send me your order prior to running out, so that way we can go ahead and get your card orders out to you in time. And I'm just going to go ahead and include that in the chat box with my information. Residents, just like online payments, will be required to pay the exact amount due as shown in Yardi and PayLease. Now, in the event that you have just added a fee or removed maybe a late fee for a resident, and that resident is going in to make a payment right away, if PayLease has not updated the balance, you can log in and edit the amount so that resident will be able to make their payment. As we are the one that's actually processing the payment, even if you've made the charge in Yardi or removed any fees, you will want to make sure if they're making a payment, whether online or through cash pay, if they're doing it right away, to go ahead and just update it in PayLease, so that way they'll be able to make their payment successfully, because it may not have hit that update point as of yet. So to do that, you'll see under rent amount, you can highlight the amount. Let's just say you've added, you can go ahead and update it to click, and then we will now reflect balance. And then when Yardi sends us that update, it will just keep it the same as it's already reflecting the new amount that you've to in Yardi. So sorry, just to go back, you will see underneath the Payments tab that there is a Cash Pay button. You will never actually use this button. So you want to make sure that you are always going straight to Show Residents. The reason being is that under Cash Pay, you won't actually be able to see your residents' T or R codes. So if you happen to have a resident that is an on-site transfer, they may have multiple profiles in PayLease. So you just want to make sure that you're coming in, typing in the resident's name. When you search their profile, you may, for the most part of it, only see them once. But in the event that they are an on-site transfer or applied to multiple units prior to moving in, they may have multiple profiles in PayLease. So you just want to make sure that you're assigning the card to the correct profile. So once you've found the resident, underneath the Actions tab, you're going to click on Make a Payment. You're going to be able to find that physical. Down at the, you'll shoot Cash Pay card, and go ahead and click here. You will see 3 different for all of these. You guys need fee temporary cards. So you get your option. You're going to want to make sure that you're going straight to rent/lease payments, which is your middle option, and it says Issue Affinity Card. Once you've clicked on that, you will see the resident's name listed here at the bottom, just to remind you who you're assigning that card to. We pre-validate the card numbers, so in the event that you've typed a card number in incorrectly, or if you've typed in a card number that's already been assigned to another resident, it will give you an error to prevent you from assigning the card incorrectly. So you'll see it'll have you type it in twice. You're going to click Submit Affinity Card after the card number has been entered in. From there, it either will give you a declined error, like I said, if there was an error, If not, then you'll see that the card has been assigned successfully. And it'll show that right here in green. Once you've assigned the card, you can also email a copy to the resident, which I do recommend if you have their email addresses on file. So not only will they have the ability to provide the physical card, which they can just keep in their wallet next to their IDs and debit cards, but they can also bring in a downloadable version on their phone, iPad, or any type of smart device. To go ahead and send that, you'll click on that third text box, which says Issue Downloadable Card. You'll go ahead and enter in the resident's email address and click on Email Card. I also recommend printing a hard copy for the resident, so just in case maybe they forgot their physical card at home, maybe they have the downloadable copy in their glove compartment of their car. Go ahead and click on Download Payment Card, and this will give the printable option. You may also have a resident that left their card at home and just needs you to either email this or fax it, depending on what they have access to. So if you need to fax it, you can click on the downloadable version. It's going to show you the card number that matches the physical card that they received with the same instructions as what's on the physical card itself, with the instructions of the agent on the left-hand side and the instructions to the resident on the right-hand side in English and in Spanish. And so like I said earlier too, this is going to follow the same rules as online payments. So if a resident is displaying a zero balance, you would either need to go in and create a charge for that resident if they need to make a payment right away, and or they wouldn't be able to pay until you've posted your fees. If you prefer to do it that way, you want to just let your residents know that if in the event of a holiday landing on a weekend, I would always just include in maybe your newsletters or monthly flyers that go out, just letting them know if the first lands on a weekend that payment charges wouldn't be posted until Monday, whatever day that is, and then that they would be able to make any payments online and or through cash pay at that point. That way you're just reminding them in the event that fees have not been posted due to the first landing on a weekend. So they will be required to pay the exact balance as shown in Yardi and PayLease. So you'll just want to make sure that those have matched. Like I said, if you have just made an adjustment in Yardi and they need to make a payment right away, you will want to edit that amount in PayLease so that way they can process their payment successfully. If the resident tries to under or overpay, their payment would be declined at the retail location. The retail agent will get a generic invalid error, which usually says something along invalid account ID. For all the agent knows, the card wasn't registered. But that's not actually the case. It's just based on your settings being with the locked amounts, that they would have to pay that balance as showing in PayLease and Yardi. And then the same thing happens too in your statuses where you can set a resident to cash equivalent. If you set them to do not accept payments, PayLease will block their profile when the update sends over showing that new status change, and a resident would not be able to pay until you've changed them to accepting payments again. Now, if a resident loses their card, all of their information has already been saved and stored in PayLease. So you can always go back to that resident's profile, type in their name. Underneath the Actions tab, here again, we're going to go back to Make a Payment. Click here to issue the cash pay card. And then you'll see back under Affinity, the previous card number is automatically saved and stored. So if you need to provide a new card, you'll go ahead and grab a new card from your stack, type in the new card number twice, and click Submit. It will automatically replace the original card assigned. If the resident happens to find their old card, you can just let them know to throw it away as it will no longer be active to their account. And you can assign a card per resident as long as they're listed as authorized lease signers, roommates, guarantors, anything along those lines. As long as their account has been set up that way, it'll send over to PayLease, and you can assign the card to that specific residence TRR code. Once the payment has been made, like I said, it will show up in PayLease in real time, so you can confirm by logging into your account underneath the Home tab in History. It will display the same way as online payments. The only difference is the type will display as cash pay. And then it will show the resident's name, the property that they are linked to, along with their TRR code for their account. Under the transactions, where you see the number hyperlinked, this is a real-time receipt with a date, time, and date stamp. So if you guys happen to have a cutoff time frame of the 5th at 5 o'clock and you guys start charging people late fees at that point, if you wanted to go and look at any payment history that is still pending because the batches have not closed, you can always look at the actual transaction receipts as shown in PayLease. The last thing too is that with some of our bigger retail locations, like Walmart or Kmart, they usually during like the bigger holidays may go through seasonal or temp hiring. If for whatever reason you feel a retail location may need a training refresher for some of those new hires, you can always send me an email with the name of that store and their address, and we'll go ahead and send check-free pay out to go ahead and retrain that store. So you'll just want to make sure that you're sending any of that support to me via email, or you can also call me directly at the number listed in the chat box. And then for Tracy, are you currently using Yardi as well, or is your housing authority contract set up differently? Great, yeah. So just as a reminder too, with housing authority contracts, I know that there are some like legal rules as far as like fees. When the payment is being made to a third-party vendor, so for an example, just like if a resident was going in to purchase a money order, the fees are not being processed through your property. So it is okay to make their payment through cash pay, as they're not actually making their payment fees directly to you. The fee is going to the retail location that's actually processing the payment. It's not going through PayLease either. So you will only see the payment that's actually coming through to your property, and the fees go directly to that retail location that's allowing the payment through their store. And then does anyone happen to have any questions on the card assignment process or anything else that you wanted to go over? For cash pay, residents will not be required a username or password as they're just going in to pay at a retail location. However, for online payments, that's actually the email notifications that I believe Barbara is setting up with Leanne and Tracy. And so what they're doing is their username will be their TRR code. And then Barbara, correct me on the password. Do we send a temporary password for them to get logged in with, or they just have to create a password when they use their TRR code?
For the residents, or are you talking about
Residents, yeah.
managers? Yeah, the residents will create their password when they log in. So we are doing an e-registration send out. That's the easiest way to communicate the TRR code from Yardi to the residents. So we did pull all of the emails that are in Yardi. There are quite a few properties that don't have many email addresses in the system. So in that case, I just want to let everyone know to make it just best practice, or, you know, as residents come in, to try to collect their email and put it on their account in Yardi. So we can add it to the list. When we do the registration send out, we can directly give them their TRR code to their account. For those residents who we are unable to pull their email address from Yardi, you will have to manually, via paper or, you know, having them come in office, will need to distribute their TRR code to them. So they do need their TRR code to register. They will create their password when they register.
Thank you, Barbara. And then did any of you guys have any other questions on cash pay, how it works, or any online questions so that you may have had for Barbara? Okay. So residents will be provided to, sorry, this is another question in the chat box. For residents that are using cash pay, they will be provided a receipt at the retail location. Although if they are registered for online payments, they will also receive an email notification for their payment made too. We do have residents that alternate. Some of them will pay with cash pay, you know, 1 month, and the next month they'll log in online and make a payment. Sometimes it's just due to the convenience of the payment, maybe where they are or what they have access to during that time of month. So residents will be able to see all of their payment history, whether it's cash pay, online payments, all of it is going to be based on the order and how they made their payment, and it will display by payment type. So that way they can see if it was cash pay or online. And you can print a list for them in PayLease and or printer lists from Yardi if they need to look at their transaction history. The only thing that we won't be able to display is any payments that are not processed through PayLease. So if you have received a payment in office that you've taken into the bank, that information would not be displayed on the PayLease ledgers. And so, yes, and this is actually something to, sorry for the next question, on the easels that you guys will receive, which look like this. This recently was a decision, oops, sorry, let me go back. Leanne just made regarding the debit or credit card payments. That is a normal option that offers. The desktop easels are actually not customizable. So since you guys have decided to opt out of currently using the debit and credit card option, I would recommend either putting your business card, some piece of paper or something over that option, so that way residents know that e-check is the only option available for online. Or if you happen to have any stickers or maybe like mailing labels, something along those lines, just to white out that part. Debit cards are going to be the only way that a resident, besides cash, can pay with cash pay, and on the online side it's just e-check. Credit cards are not accepted for a cash pay payment. Only debit cards, as they're able to process those in real time to determine if funds are available on that card. And it's at that same $4 convenience fee. And then were there any other questions that you guys had? Not a problem, you're welcome. So also, like I said, I will be your point of contact for cash pay if you guys happen to have any questions as you're going through this process and launching this at your properties. This, like I said, is a great alternative. It is not a requirement. However, it usually will end up benefiting your residents. That's why I recommend it highly in addition to the online payment option. So that way you're just cutting out that drive time, gas, and mileage that that resident is currently experiencing when having to purchase money orders. This is actually available as of now. So if you've received your physical cards, you can actually assign the cards right away. And I believe for online payments, the only delay is just in when you guys are going to be sending out the notifications, because residents will need their TRR codes to get registered. But for cash pay, it is not needed, so you can actually set up residents immediately if they want to start paying with cash pay.
Yeah, and just one more time, Ashley, I'm just want to announce everyone, just try your hardest to get as many emails as possible. If you have like a common office area to hang a, notice letting the residents know to send you their email address. Or if you do any type of mailing or send out to the resident, just maybe add it on there for them to send it to you. If you see someone in office, just put that into Yardi, just because we do e-registration send outs, which makes it very, very easy for them. They can click on the link to register. It will already provide their code to register. They will have all of that information. So it'll be very easy for them to register if we do have it. So we did pull all of the ones we did have. I believe we're doing that send out early next week. So all of the residents that emails are in Yardi will have access to the portal with their T codes to register. If you do not have their email address, it is not in Yardi, then you will have to give them, a letter and manually type in their T code for them, or have them come in office to receive their T code. But everyone whose email is in Yardi will be notified with their T code before the 1st.
I was just going to look to see if we happen to have any pictures of the Yardi main screen so we can show them where the T codes are. That's a question that we just got.
Yeah, I don't think we have screenshots of the Yardi side, but 100% when you log into Yardi and you go to the resident level of their account, there should be a T code associated on their account. So if you pull up the residence information or a property unit's information, there should be a T code linked to it. You can also get that T code if you log into PayLease. If you log into your PayLease account and click on your residence page, you will be able to see all of the residents' T or R codes that are assigned to their account. So if you can't find it in Yardi, you can always find their T code or R code in PayLease. I see when is the last day we can enter emails into Yardi. I believe I would definitely try to get them in this week for the send out for the 1st. We could always do a reminder send out next month as well. So any emails you get next month, I'll make a note to check in about doing another send out, towards the end of next month. So any additional emails that are entered in, we can electronically send them the registration info with their code. But I'll pull another list at the end of the week. So any new emails that are added by Friday, hopefully we can get those added to the list as well for the registration send out.
Yeah. And then I just found a quick screenshot. So you'll see right here under the property information, the residence ID code will be right here on the top where it says resident ID, and that will be where their T or R code is displayed.
I see the question, are we going to have a flyer we can print to send to residents concerning the PayLease option? I did send a flyer to Leanne. I think she is customizing something that is printable. So when she prints those out, she should be sending those to each of the sites. So you will have an option to print something out for the residents with the information. There should be like a little space where you can either type in or write in their code. So you can provide it to them that way as well. It's definitely going to just be a little more work to print them out and to write in everyone's code and distribute it to them. But for anyone whose email you don't have, that's going to be the option. You are going to want to do that via a flyer or a handout.
Right. And I believe Leanne, too, is also going to be putting all of that into your guys' document section in Grace Hill.
Yeah, so it should already be customized. The only thing you're going to need to do is add their code onto the flyer when you hand it to them.
Do you know, Barbara, when the last day they can enter the emails in by? That was another question that was on here.
I can do another email pool maybe Friday for the 1st. Again, we can definitely do another send out next month. I'm going to type in my information in the chat too if you want to email me directly. If at any time you want to do your own send out for your property, if you get a lot more emails in and randomly in the middle of the month you decide you wanted to do a send out, I can always put that in for you. But the big send out is going to be for the 1st this month. So I would say try to get them within the next couple of days if you want them to make it for the 1st. Because I think the send out might be going out on Monday. So definitely before Friday, we would need the emails in the system for that launch. But again, at any time, if you wanted to do another send out mid-month, just to, you got maybe a ton of emails in and you wanted to do another send out, you can email me. I will put my contact information here and I can get that set up for you.
Perfect. And then if there's no other questions, then we will let you guys go. We really appreciate you guys taking the time to train with us today. And like I said, we will be your primary points of contact. So if you happen to have any questions, whether it's email related, you can definitely contact Barbara. And then anything for online payments, you'll go through Barbara and then myself for cash pay. And then also for any general support, I believe Barbara has already shown you guys the support landing page. You guys can always submit emails or call into our support team as well. We do have direct email addresses for our support teams, and or you can always click on the write us an email, which is just on the support page. It's a little button on the bottom of your page. And then this is the phone number for our client support team. Thank you again, and if you need anything, just let us know.
Thank you, Barbara. Thank you, Ashley.
Thank you, and have a great day.
Thank you.